Okay.
Oh my god.
Gordo, I don't know what you've been on tonight.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Dude, I'm on Stella Artois, bro.
Do your reviews at Kroger?
What did he say?
The one to Walmart,
Abe hasn't even read the chat.
Abe, have you read the chat at all?
Abe's in for none of these reviews actually got posted.
Dang it.
Just putting it out there before Abe.
Gordo says he left a review for Kroger, was walking down aisle 5, looked to my left and noticed this dude, didn't think anything of it. Suddenly I slipped on a banana peel looking like Mario Kart. Yoshi boys represent. And this
in the dad chat.
And this man, 5'8", red beard, bald head, grabbed me and saved my life. Suddenly he was gone. I swear he looked like his name was a president's name. I don't know. Was he an angel? Probably.
Please tell me you put it on there. For the love, please tell me you did it.
I'm not trying to get anybody promoted.
What it do, baby? We're back with episode 5 of Somehow I Dad, the podcast about dad life. Joining us today from Ohio, Gordo.
Hello.
From Arkansas, he's back, Abe Phillips.
Hello.
Back by popular demand, TJ Weaver.
What's up?
And joining us straight from the hospital, Sir Tyler Giddens.
Yo, what it do, flight crew?
Tyler is currently at the hospital as we speak with his wife, Ashley. They are giving birth to their little girl, Oakley. Tyler, any updates? How's it going? How are you? How's Ashley?
It's we're going good. They put in the Foley bulb at 2, so to get her at 4 to get her dilated. I've been corrected.
He's already wrong.
If you hear a beep or a heartbeat in the background, that's just the machines. Don't worry about it. She's A-okay. Yeah, we're all good. She's just uncomfortable and wants to walk around and she can't. So
yeah.
If you hear somebody screaming with an attitude, it'll be my angry wife.
How long does this process take? I'm so new to this.
Usually if you do a early induction, it's 12, 14 hours actually. Basically overnight. So they do it the evening before and then should be able to give birth, like dilated enough to give birth by the morning or afternoon next day.
Dang. That's crazy.
Longest for us was 3 days. Shortest was 8 hours.
3 days after an induction?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
And then he was emergency C-section. So then every other one after.
Gosh.
Both of ours were C-sections. So we scheduled a time. We showed up to the hospital about an hour before, got into the room. They took her back. And it was 45 minutes from the time they took her back to the time she was back in the room with
you didn't go into the surgery room?
Oh, absolutely I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
They I was on the other, I had my wife's hand in front of the curtain and I was on the other side watching.
You watched?
Heck
oh
yes,
yeah,
dude.
Oh,
without question, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as it seems. The birth.
It's not as bad as it seems. They cut her open.
The C-section is technically less gross than a natural birth.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I'm not.
I was speaking from the natural birth point because she didn't have a C-section, but it's not as gross as it seems.
It isn't super gross. You will want to punch a doctor though.
Yep.
Because he's causing your wife's discomfort and she's whimpering and I'm motherfucker.
Yep. You're gonna want to fight somebody in there because your wife is gonna want to fight you for doing this to her.
Well,
so
as a husband, it's the most frustrating thing in the world to be my wife is in incredible pain and I can't do a single thing to help. It is so powerless feeling. So I wanted to punch a doctor.
It'll make you want to put a hit out on the doctor, but don't do anything yourself. Just call the Goatman.
Well, the Goatman's not going to do much because he got hit by a cop. So,
oh yeah, he did.
yeah.
Yeah,
so
but the thing with the Goatman though is I think he lays eggs. So technically, the birth experience for Goatman is pretty painless.
Is
Well,
it wrong?
technically, it's 2023, so Goat Woman.
it is.
Goat
It is.
person.
It's
Goat
amazing.
person.
Goat
How did
they.
you get here? How did we get here? So
If-
fast. We were doing so good for like 3 minutes.
It's not even my fault 99% of the time. I just finish it.
But Garrett, it's like it's an interesting anticipation, right? Like we didn't get to experience the like going into labor because our Roman was breech, so we had to do a C-section. They were like, "There's no way you're doing a natural. You have to do a C-section." And then the next one, my wife was like, "Heck no, you're cutting me open again. I'm not. This thing ain't coming out. Like you're gonna pull it out of my stomach. I'm not. It's no." And me, I was kind of like, "Yeah, cool, all right. That's that's fine with me." But like, it was like the baby comes out, and you're like, "Oh man, like I don't really know how to feel." And they hand it to you, and it's like, I have to. What am I supposed to do with this thing? Like, I'm supposed to keep it alive now? Like, it is a totally different set of emotions. And then your wife's crying, and she like, it took us about a week to kind of settle down from after having the first one of like,
Jeez.
okay,
First one, yeah, it doesn't feel real.
I have
At
a
all.
question.
yes,
A genuine question. How hard was it for you guys? So it's kind of a weird question that I don't think anybody talks about in being a dad, but something that I noticed after having 3 kids was it's really hard for me to bond with them between like when they're born and probably right up to like 6 months when they can start interacting with you.
yes.
And I just wondered if you guys felt like that was natural, because I always felt like I was selfish. Like this little human is not interacting with me, so I can't. It's not that I don't love. Like it's instant love, it's instant joy, it's instant everything that you ever thought of. But it's like it's so hard. Like right now, when like I look at Evie and stuff like that, it's like, oh my gosh, I love you, and she shows it back, and she just looks at me like, oh my god, you're my dad. But like before, like the last couple months, like it's really hard for the dad, I feel like, to
feel
bond.
that connection.
So, yeah. So then you're going through like almost mourning the loss of your wife because she's overtaken by like taking care of this little human being. And then you're also like, I don't know how to interact with this little human being.
Yeah.
So
No.
I just was wondering like what your guys' thoughts were on that, honestly, because I feel like that's something that like dudes don't talk about.
Absolutely. First kid especially, because you're like, that's my wife and she has zero time for me. Like,
Yep.
I'm not even saying like anything physical. I was just like, I miss first kid. I miss just it being the two of us. And then second kid, less so, but it was still like, now I've got the oldest one because my wife has to take care of the youngest one, the new baby. And you get that kind of almost, it's going to sound really bad, but almost you resent it for a little while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you get that, the eyes open, the little happy chortle when they see you, and it clicks. But I'd have to say, I have to think that it's most, if not all, fathers. Because we're not doing anything for 6 months.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. I can maybe change a diaper.
You're an errand boy.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we
take care of the wife.
I still remember, like I was so terrified to talk about that with dads.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm like, for the first few months, like I'm holding him and I'm like, I know I love this kid. And I know that this is like supposed to be like, I'm supposed to just be enthralled with all of this emotion. And like, I would do anything for you. And I would have, but I remember the first time it was like, it hit me like a truck. And I'm like crying, like, you know, those I've like I'm at the front of the altar, snot, just crying. Like the first time, it was probably around 6 or 7 months or so when Roman, I kind of came around the corner and I was gone for I think it was probably because I was gone for a couple days traveling for work. And I came home and he looked at me and we made legitimate eye contact, because the first few months they're their eyes are just all over the place, and Roman was cross-eyed for the first month. And so we this was the first time we made super connected eye contact, and he did this little squeal kind of giggle, and his whole body
there was recognition
shook.
that that's dad.
And dude, I literally just got goosebumps talking about it, because it's probably one of my most cherished memories with Roman of that's the first, TJ, you said it perfectly. That's the first time he's dad. And that's when, to be honest, that's when I really first felt the weight of the responsibility of raising this kid. Right. So I think Garrett, Gordo, I think that was a perfect, just a perfect question. Cause that's kind of a terrifying thing.
That's
to
not
talk
in any
about.
dad book.
No, it's not.
I've ever read.
No, it's not. It's not in that Dr. Spock's book, bro. Garrett, have you read that?
No.
Wait, Garrett can read?
What did you guys do to combat that feeling?
Honestly, nothing. That's
nothing.
That's the first time in 12 years I've talked about it, to be honest with you.
It's not, I'd say I've kind of had those moments that Abe has had with each. I mean, you get less and less as you have more kids, because you've got a new baby, but you already have 2 other kids. So sure, mom's got the baby, I've got the other 2. I'm still in full dad mode. But I would say I didn't realize what I was feeling until I felt it change, until I had that moment of, this is my kid.
Yeah.
I love this kid. I didn't really notice, or I hadn't recognized that resentment or that kind of dissatisfaction or disconnect.
Yeah. Did you notice after that, a shift in you and your wife's relationship? Because I noticed one in mine, because the first few months we had the kid and I was still attentive to Roman, but my wife was still my main focus, right? Of what do you need? Do you need a bottle? I'll make the bottle. The baby's crying. All you do is have to hold it. We had some trouble. We had some trouble breastfeeding, which was a real emotional roller coaster for us and the family. Right. There was a lot of kind of questioning. I think resentment is probably, no, not necessarily resentment. That's probably the wrong word there, but it really affected my wife. Right. And
you gotta comfort your wife, because she feels like she is not doing the job that she is on this planet for.
Exactly. And we had some really, really good people, just some amazingly close family friends that kind of helped us through that, of your main goal is to make sure that your child is healthy and that your child is belly's full. It doesn't matter if it comes from your wife. It doesn't matter if it comes from formula. Garrett, anybody that tells you, you'll hear all kinds. Your wife will be just bombarded with oh, well, you don't breastfeed, you formula feed. And it's they're not directly saying you're not doing a very good job as a mom, but that's how she's going to take it. Right. Okay. And so you have to be ready for,
she's going to feel like she's a failure.
Exactly. And it's going to be a whole new set of emotions, and that adds to the unseen resentment that you might have. If you're this kid came into our lives and it's supposed to be people make it out to be this just astonishing, amazing thing. And to be clear, yes, it is. Right. However, there are so many new things that you're having, you're going to see a side of your wife that you've never seen before. right? And it's going to be just relearning how to connect with that side of her.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, the first one for the first few months is going to be tough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like people who say it's all sunshine and rainbows, sorry, but it's bullshit.
They're lying. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
No,
It's how do I communicate with you? You start to like, you're not going to sleep, not because your baby's up, but because any noise that your baby makes, you're going to sprint and make sure they're breathing. Like that's, dude, that's what I did.
I mean, I
That's
still
so
do
true.
that. And my youngest is 3. Like I have definitely woken up in the middle of the night and done while I'm up, I'm going to go check on the kids, make sure they're okay. Like that
Finger
doesn't
check.
go away.
Yeah.
Finger check. Finger underneath the nose. Do I feel hot air? You're alive. Okay, sweet. Now I go back to bed.
Yeah.
You just walk in and make sure they're breathing. Like just look at their chest and see if it's
Dude,
moving.
yeah. It's like
Pull
pitch
the
black, and I'm just
blankets
staring at
up.
their chest.
You see the favorite stuffy on the
Goatman in
ground.
the
You pick
closet.
it up.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
They've got a
Jeez.
foot out from underneath the blanket, and you're like, they're probably freezing. I need to cover them up.
But then as a
Like-
dad, you look at it and you're like, I should tickle that foot.
Absolutely.
But no, I don't
Yep.
want to be awake. I don't
Yeah.
want them to wake.
And
But
then they're going to be terrified that
Ramifications,
something
yeah.
came out from underneath their bed and tickled their foot. Like,
yeah.
Yep.
But no, all that to say, everybody in your life is going to become an expert on your kid, and you can't listen to them all.
Oh yeah.
mm,
No,
Oh, yeah.
That's
God, that's so.
That-
Let's say that one more time, because that is such an absolute fact, man. There's going to be
Yeah,
so
it's-
many people that bombard you with, this is how you're supposed to do this. This is how you're supposed to do that. Like we've just recently got affirmation on a few things with Roman. He discipline doesn't. There's not one thing discipline wise where he's like,
Right.
oh, please don't do that. It's just very like today it was I took his Hulk Lego away and
Yep.
I was the worst dad in the entire world. I can't believe you did that to me. Well, dude, you can't hold your Lego. You don't aim well enough while you're peeing. You're not going to hold your Lego and try to pee at the same time, dude.
You took
Like,
his
that's-
Lego away for peeing with his dude. I still pee with my Legos.
Not when he's trying to aim
And
with
you
two
still
hands
miss
and a
the
Lego
ball.
and one.
There's no
I don't
shot.
know why I have to
There's no
correct
shot. I
Marissa,
can pee with
Marissa
the
can
Lego
confirm
now.
that I do miss the ball. Yes, I should put my Legos down. You guys are right.
I mean,
Abe's right. Abe's right.
but yeah, you'll find things that work.
Yeah.
And find things that work for you guys. That's the most important part. And
Yeah.
and we're just now finding out that there's my wife has a coworker has a 4-year-old, and we're talking about how aggravating he was over the last few days of like he's just all over the place. He's a ping pong ball dude, just getting smacked all over the place, wants to do a million things at once. And you'll feel isolated until you start to realize that like, oh, other 4-year-olds do the exact same thing. Okay. So he's not that bad. All right, good.
Yeah.
TJ and Abe, obviously Tyler's in the hospital right now and he's having his second little girl. And TJ, you got 4 kids. Abe, you got 2. What would you tell Tyler right now with going from 1 kid to the 2-kid transition? Like what?
It's a good question.
I know I definitely got thoughts on that, but what do you guys spill the beans with that. What do you guys think on that? What is the best advice that you could give Tyler right now? So in 3 days, he's prepared to take his little girl home and be a father of 2.
Get a second car seat.
I mean, I need to go buy one
I hope
right
they
now.
already have that, or I'm calling CPS too.
Honestly, I would say 1 to 2 was the toughest transition out of all of the 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. 1 to 2 was the toughest because as a dad, you now have to take more ownership because a lot of the time, when it's just a single kid, your wife's got it handled. She's nurturing, she's going to take care of the kid. Now you have to watch over the oldest one so she can take care of the baby. And that was for me what I dealt with.
Yeah. Man. I mean, I would probably say for me, it was. I don't necessarily remember, to be fair, like the transitional period. I think it was really like kind of what we talked about earlier about kind of that resentment piece. I really wanted to make sure with Cora, who's our daughter, our second one. I just really wanted to make sure that I included, even though Roman was like 2.5. I really wanted to make sure that he was included in everything that was going on. Right? I didn't want him to resent his sister, even though obviously he wouldn't. I didn't want him to get jealous.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so the big thing was making sure that even though we were, I'd scoop the formula, put it in the bottle, and let him shake it up and take it to the, his sister and all that kind of stuff. And that was really like, I think I hyper focused on that and kind of didn't necessarily give Mel enough attention through that whole thing. Cause it was kind of like, instead of us really being a team, it was now more of like, okay, you've got her, I've got him. Or we would switch, right? And I'll take care of her, you take care of him. But just making sure that, that we were even really with our time across the board. And if we had to do something specifically for sister, that Roman knew, hey, this is why we're doing this, right? Like, you're a part of this family. You get to do these things.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of toy buying. as well, we and just making sure that Roman knew that, hey, we still love you. Like, nothing changed. She's just another part of the family and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't say that the transition from one to, I'm never gonna, unless we adopt, right? We'll never get to 3. So, I don't want to say never. God's got his own plan, and if it happens, then I'm going to have some questions. But
surgeries heal.
I
have 2 buddies who have had that happen to them.
Do you know the emotional toll that 3 vasectomies has on a person?
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
bro, we'll have to on a future episode, we'll have to talk about those because that was quite the experience.
I did that one.
That is.
I did.
I would say, I don't want to say it's the biggest, but it's pretty up there on some of my biggest fears.
Dude, I don't think I'll do it. I had a guy that I worked with at the car dealership back when I worked for Toyota that, like, he went and got it done on his lunch break.
Oh my God.
Dude, there's some people in the car business that are just built different, bro.
17 monsters in the morning. Might as well just go get a vasectomy on lunch.
No, he was a salesman, so it's much worse. Much.
I'm gonna need an hour today, boss.
Dude, he comes back with like a pee bag on his, peas, but he comes back and he's like freaked out, dude. He ended up having an allergic reaction to whatever they like gave him to numb him. He died he died while getting a vasectomy, and they had to shock him back to life. And he was so scared that he came back to work and just was like running around the dealership. We had to contain him and send him. Yeah, we had to contain him and physically send him home. Like, his wife had to come pick him up. And I will never get a vasectomy because of that guy. Like, thank you, Ryan, for showing me the light. Because
one of my coworkers just had one, and the numbing whatever didn't work on him, and they found that out after they cut.
Thanks.
Oh,
so they were like, "What do you want to do?" And he's like, "Well, I'm already cut open. Just go for it." And he did it. He said the pain wasn't that bad, but he could feel them rooting around. I won't go into graphic detail. And he said it was
enough.
Horrible.
That's far more than I was hoping for.
They put me to sleep.
Yeah.
Amen.
Maybe go for a
That's how I do. They put me to sleep for a week.
Yeah, literally, and he had to take a week off work because he couldn't walk, and it was not pretty.
I'm 100% comfortable saying that I would stay celibate for the rest of my life based off of those two stories. 100%. I'm totally cool with it, dude.
Dude, but
Correct.
there's
My KD
nothing
will be like
iron blanks and
1.5.
not have to worry about it. Anyways, yeah, they put me to sleep, dude. I went to the hospital. They put me to sleep.
Wow.
I told the doctor,
he was in a coma for 9 months.
It's
a great story.
I woke up and I'm on a podcast.
And that's when you lost your hair?
It's yes, part of it. Part of it. Yep. Yep. It was. I knew, like, going into it, it's just weird. You know, like,
you're
standing in the doctor's office. He's like, "All right, drop them." You know, and you've had like physicals and stuff before, but it's not.
It was more intimate.
Yes, that
I got a
freaked me out, dude.
Right before COVID, and then they canceled it because all elective procedures were canceled because of COVID and all that stuff. So thank God for COVID. COVID happened because God didn't want me to get a vasectomy. That's what I
appreciate that.
I agree. I honestly agree. I got
it was
tingles all over from that. Honestly, Tyler, I have a question to draw back in. So, to give you some backstory, maybe I'm softer than your average man, but I was holding Dominic. We had, I don't know, Riss was pretty pregnant with Mason, and I had my first panic attack because I was honestly, like, I pinpointed it to not understanding how I could love two kids like equally, but in different ways. Like, I was like, how do I pick? Like, I have to pick a favorite. How do I pick a favorite? So my question to you, Tyler, is like, how have you felt going into this? Like, have you felt any nervousness? Are you feeling at peace? Like, what kind of thoughts do you have here from the hospital room, bro?
So even with my first one, Aspen, absolutely no nervousness, no nerves, no anxiety over anything. Like, and even with Oakley, it's the same way. Just with Aspen, it kind of didn't feel real until you held her in your arms. Like the minute that I got to hold her, it was like completely changed. Like, it's like my world was flipped upside down, and I've never felt a love of that type. I wouldn't say to that level because I love my wife, but of that kind of love. It's a different kind of love, and it.
As an IV bag comes flying across the
room. Yeah, I love my wife. But yeah, no nerves. I don't know why, but it's like until the baby's born, I don't have any nerves. It's like my emotions are lowered until it happens. But the moment it happens, it's like your whole world changes. Yep. So, like, I'm excited in a way, but I'm sure like it's every hour we get closer and closer and closer. I'll get more excited. So once they come in and say, "Oh, she's 4 centimeters" or whatever, I'll get way more excited up until she's born. And when she's born, I'll be like, "Oh my God!" And that's the kind of way it is for me. Some people are like anxious the whole time; they can't wait. Like they're just, "Oh my God, is everything okay?" Your blood pressure is one beat above where it should be. Like, and then some people like I'm just chill with it until something happens.
Yeah,
because I don't know what's going to happen and I can't change it, and it's almost as if it's not real until something happens.
Yeah, is it for weird? A weird thing that happened to me when pretty much on each kid is each time there was a new kid, I felt like I loved my wife even more. Like as the kids increased, seeing your wife as a mother is so insanely special. Like you see it, like I've been like just sitting in the living room watching Em do like art projects with the kids or something like that, or cooking with the kids in the kitchen. And those are those moments that like I treasure a lot.
Oh yeah, dude.
So even more like I never felt like I was going to not be able to love my kids equally. But I will say I definitely loved my wife more each, like with the kids. Like seeing her as a mom was huge.
I guess I wouldn't say. Oh, sorry, Abe.
I was just gonna say it's like I would say there's no bigger attraction.
Yeah.
That like when she's momming good, watch out now. Like,
Yeah.
kids, you're going to bed early. Hey,
Yeah, has a vasectomy.
Yes, sir. Yep. I'm going to turn all the group chats off.
Yeah, right, dude. You got Hammy buzzing your nightstand.
Yeah.
Hey, get on.
I
So
wouldn't
that's
say
good to hear
that.
that you're not nervous or anything, because it can be daunting, but that's awesome.
Yeah,
No, that's good, man. Yeah.
I wouldn't say necessarily that it's a bigger love. I would say that we love differently as we grow. So like we got married super young.
Yeah.
She was 19, 20, 19 and 21. So like we were really young when we got married. So it's like every little thing that happens in your life, you're growing together, you're growing up together. So I think it's just maturing and different things cause you to love your wife differently.
Yeah.
Like the things that made you love her at 19 aren't the same that's going to make you love her at 29, you know?
That conversation came up at church because my wife did a catering event for like some small group kind of thing. They hired her to make lasagna for the group. And so my wife, I had just come off stage. We had like a 50-minute worship set on Sunday, second service, which was gnarly.
Awesome.
And so I get a text from her and she's like, "Hey, are you available to help me? I'm about to be at the church. Can you help me get the lasagna upstairs to the loft?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So I help her get it up. I help her get back in her car. And one of the newer married wives at the church, she was like, "I just love that you and your wife look like best friends." I'm like, "Well, I mean, she is my best friend." And she goes, "I know, but not all couples see it or act like that." I was like, "Well, that's true because there's a stage from like, I got married. I was 21. She was 19 too. And there was your like best friends then. And then you get married and now you're husband and wife. And then you have to, for me at least, we had to learn how to be best friends again.
Yeah.
Through being parents, because that changes things. And it's like that transition as you love somebody more over time as you're going through new things. You find new things about your person that you love and stuff like that. But that learning period of like, now we're parents. Now we're parents of a toddler. Now we're parents of kids. Now, yeah, it's just, it's crazy. It's never ending in the best way possible.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by Baby's First Diaper Keepsake Frame. Introducing the Baby's First Diaper Keepsake Frame, the perfect way to cherish and preserve those special first moments with your little one. This beautiful frame not only showcases your baby's very first diaper, but also includes a space to add a picture, making it a truly unique and sentimental keepsake. This hermetically sealed frame keeps it moist for years to come. The Baby's First Diaper Keepsake Frame is easy to use. Simply insert the first diaper and display it proudly on your baby's changing table or wall. You can even personalize the frame with your baby's name, date of birth, or other special details to make it extra special. Made with high-quality materials, this frame is built to last, ensuring that you can treasure these memories for years to come. This elegant design will complement any nursery or family room, and the frame is easy to hang or display on a tabletop. Revisit that first diaper change at the touch of a button. Some of our most powerful memories are associated with scents. This keepsake diaper frame lets you relive those precious moments of baby's first bowel movements in vivid detail by releasing a cloud of perfectly preserved scent. Don't let those special first moments slip away. Capture and preserve them with Baby First Diaper Keepsake Frame, a must-have for new parents and a wonderful gift for baby showers, christenings, and more. Order now and start creating memories that will last a lifetime. To shift gears here a little bit, what's happened? What's happened since our last Dadcast? What's been going on in your guys' lives?
So I want to go first because it's just really going to piss Abe off.
What? Dude, if you bring up Goatman, I'm gonna lose it. Okay.
No,
He wrote a
I'm
book
not
of
bringing-
dad
A
jokes.
cop hit him, dude.
And you don't even hear about it on the news. Okay.
Yeah, dude.
No, so what happened is
Mainstream media.
my wife just sent me a
Fake
picture.
news.
I'll share it in the group chat later.
Of Goatman?
Yeah, of
I
Goatman.
knew it. God
She seen
bless.
him?
CT in a sweater?
Yes, yeah. Yesterday we did a little project with Aspen where we made like pink chocolate covered strawberries for
Heck yeah, dude.
for Valentine's Day.
Dipped in Dr. Pepper.
So we made those, and this was at like 6:30. So
Oh, no.
she had four. She had four,
Oh,
and then she had a Dr. Pepper, and she had some nerds,
Of course.
and then she went to sleep. She went to sleep 30 minutes later.
Oh my gosh. How does she do that?
I don't
How
know.
does she do that?
I told Ashley, I was like, you might want to comb it down just a little bit. She's like, nah, she's fine. She's going to bed.
the thing that scares me most about this story is like this sounds like my childhood, like in a nutshell. So by 30, she's gonna be full blown into Goatman stories. Honestly, like that's where we're headed. Like I was hooked on Dr. Pepper by the time I was like 4 or 5. It's like all I drank.
Mm-mm.
I went to the hospital. It was like a Dr. Pepper
Mm.
IV. It was everything Dr. Pepper.
Was Dr. Pepper your physician?
He was, dude.
Oh
had-
my god.
We had Mr. Pibb. We had Mr. Pibb. Dude didn't even get his
Dude.
degree.
Dude, Mr. Pibb, though, honestly, he was a good substitute. Like going to the movie theater and getting a large Mr. Pibb and having your mom pay $10.99 to get refill on it. Like, there's nothing better.
It was
honestly.
always the biggest cup you ever got all year long. Was just
Oh, yeah.
like
I
that
think it's in the
movie
cup
theater drink.
holder.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're just getting condensation and cold legs the entire
And
movie.
your kid, 2 hands. 2 hands. Your fingers can't even touch around it. It's like
Dude, our
your
kids are so spoiled with recliners in the movie theater. Like they have
Bro.
no
Right?
idea. We used to sit on like those metal chairs from
Just lawn
youth
chairs.
group. Yeah, literally lawn chairs like screwed together with drywall screws.
And no padding.
Jeez.
And
Yeah,
so
absolutely
many
no padding. The screen was upside down both ways.
stains.
Well, also in addition to that, we signed her up for gymnastics, which she's been begging for like a year since she found
Yes.
out what it was. She loves flipping and turning, and she's like, "Turn me upside
Yeah, it's
down,
'cause
Daddy."
you give her
'cause she wants to do
nerds
a
at
flip.
6:30 at night. Of course you do.
Exactly. She's got to get that energy out somehow. So she loves that. So we called and got her signed up. We bought her a little gymnastics leotard, and she's been doing front flips. She is super, super excited about it. So that's going to be super fun. She starts in 2 weeks.
Nice.
So she's going to love that. And she finally called me old. I told some of you guys I went and played basketball yesterday. So like my back's hurting, like I'm sore. And I bent down to pick something up. I was like, "Oh, my back hurts." And she's like, "That's because you're old, Daddy." I was like, "Oh my god!"
She
I was
knows.
hurt.
She knows.
I was hurt.
Man,
So,
he gets it.
I think so. I was going to talk about this, and I think this kind of transitions into kind of what you were saying about gymnastics. So, so last time we recorded, I was babysitting my wife's little sisters while her parents were in Hawaii. So there was beautiful pictures of Hawaii. But so we're babysitting them, and one of the nights we took her oldest sister, who's in 5th grade. She has swimming lessons. So we drop her off at swimming lessons, and we go to sit like in like the balcony section of where where the parents sit to watch their kids swim. And there was probably 16 to 20 kids in the pool. Of those like we'll say 20 kids that were in the pool, there were 6 parents besides us that were watching their kids. And of those 6 parents, all 6 of them were on their phones, or one lady brought a laptop, and another one was reading a book. And I was like, what is going on? Like literally none of the parents that even came. I mean, I guess they got some kind of, brownie points for at least going to the practice, but of the ones that were there, none of them were watching their kid. Like the majority of the time were on their phones or doing something else. And it blew my mind. I was like, what? Like I was engaged in their practice as watching my little sister do it, but get alone, like my kid doing something like that, like I feel like I'd be like, really engaged, and maybe I'm just different. I don't know. But I don't know. I say all that to say, Tyler, when you're watching your kid, when you're watching Aspen for gymnastics, don't actually watch her and don't just sit on your phone the whole time. It made me mad. I don't know.
Right. I don't know that I could sit there on my phone the whole time while she's doing something that she absolutely loves.
Yeah.
I would have to watch.
Abe, what were you gonna say?
I'm gonna say that after so Roman did karate for, it was kind of the same thing with Aspen, right? Like he was like, oh, he watched Three Ninjas. Like I make sure that he watches movies that I loved when I was his age, like Three Ninjas, the real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Tremors.
No, not Tremors. No.
Oh, come on, dude. Get him on Tremors. Mason was on Tremors by at least 4
and
or 5.
let me tell you why. We go out to my mom's house, and I'll get back to what I was talking about a second to your point, Garrett.
Okay.
Did he watch Coneheads?
No, he was at school, bro. He was at school.
Cool dads pull their kids out of school to go to arcades first
and to watch Coneheads.
Oh, we've already done that, and I
shade.
But we God, now I lost my train of thought. But I will say that after back to Garrett's point, after the 900th time you go and it's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
You can only be so interested. It's not that you're not interested.
That makes sense.
Right? But like I go to karate and they're doing very entry level things.
Yeah.
Right. And so once when the big things are going to happen so like swimming, you're going to try to swim by yourself. Oh, I'm locked in. Right. Like I want to see him do it. But like here, okay, get on this paddleboard and kick your legs to me and then turn around. I'm going to set you on the side. Then they don't do anything until they're interacted with again. You're like,
it does lose some of its magic the more times you've seen it, and you kind of balance it out on like what is going on. Like when AJ was doing ballet before COVID and all that jazz, the practices were adorable, but I was definitely on my phone. But when she did her little recital thing, I was still on my phone, but it was because I was recording it and crying like an old man.
Yeah.
But,
because you're not going to miss anything. Because the second they get home, they want to do it over and over and over and over.
I've seen that rehearsal routine in my office, and she's jumped on my foot 4 times.
Yeah.
So
we'll revisit this when your little guy hits 3rd grade and he brings his recorder home for the first time. We'll just calculate.
Refrigerator. Yeah.
Dude, I have that thing hidden still to this day.
And the tambourine.
My
mother-in-law bought my kids a junior worship set.
How dare she?
Maracas,
tambourine,
harmonicas, and tambourine, and little. No, but I saw it and I was like, 1, what church do you worship at? And 2, no.
Did it come with ripped jeans and a long scallop tee with a deep V?
It did have a very nice denim jacket.
Dude, when I was a freshman in college, our college was attached to an elementary school, and we'd walk by this hallway that we had to walk through to get to like our main auditorium at our church. We had to pass by I think it was like 4th or 5th grade hallway, and we'd walk by, and dude, there was this one time of the year where all the kids had just gotten their recorders from music class, and you could hear there was a door in between us that was closed. You couldn't see through, but you could definitely hear. And these kids are practicing their recorders, and they're trying to play the Star Wars theme song, but it's just so bad. They'll get 2 notes, and the 3rd note's just way out in left field. And it was the funniest thing to me. Yeah.
Yeah, because they weren't your kids, and it wasn't in your house.
That's true.
I was going to sell my boat. I went out to my mom's house.
Of course,
I went out to my mom's house to take new pictures of it and stuff because fishing, like from the first podcast, fishing has just always kind of been in my life, and that's how I've always stayed, kind of spiritually close and thought wise close to my dad since he passed. And because I wanted a different toy, right? Like my wife's like, you've got a boat, you can't buy another toy, you have to sell the boat. If you sell the boat, you can go buy, within reason, you can go buy whatever toy you want. I don't really care. And so I was going to go get me and Roman like some 4-wheelers, right?
Yeah.
Get him like a little, like a little 80 with a throttle control and all that kind of stuff where he can go like 5 miles an hour, something like that. And get me probably, I don't think he's quite ready for a dirt bike yet. But on the way, he was like, Dad, are we going to Gigi's? Which is what we call my mom.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep. He goes, why are we going? I said, dude, we just talked about all this. I have to go help a friend move. And we're going to take pictures of the boat. Daddy's going to try to sell the boat. And he was like, but we haven't gone fishing yet. And I was like, but we've been fishing a few times, just not on the boat. Like we've gone bank fishing and, all that kind of stuff. And he was like, yeah, but Pops used to, we called my dad Pops.
Yeah.
He goes, but Pops taught you how to fish on a boat. And I was like, oh, my heart.
I'll hit you right in the field.
Dude, that hurts me and I'm not even involved.
I texted Mel and I was like, I'm not selling the boat. And she was like, what'd Roman say? And I just said, it was just like in his mind, it's like, you can't sell it. I can't comprehend you selling it because you haven't taught me what your dad taught you yet. And that has rocked me since he said that.
Dang,
I'm like,
that's so good.
I look at like, even so last week in Arkansas, we had 4 inches of ice. Like it wasn't snow. We basically had like ice pellets.
Yeah.
And we got 4 inches of it. So we were locked in for like 5 days. And him and his sister staying home from daycare is terrifying because you're not getting anything done. Like they just want attention. They want attention.
Yeah.
But like, and I don't know if it's kind of like because what you'll notice as they grow older, Garrett, is their body will want to do things that their mind just can't do yet.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they'll catch up and it's like they've learned all this other crazy stuff so quick. And you're like, how did you know how to do this? It like just snaps.
Yeah.
And I guess that happened because he has been playing with his like his imagination has just exploded.
Yeah.
Lately. Like, and he wants to play, with his Black Panther and his Thor and his Captain America and his dinosaurs. And he's just making up all of these things. And he's got toys strategically placed and he's got magnetiles and he's been building like extremely symmetrical, like mirror images with these. And it's just astonishing.
Yeah.
So this whole week, he has been the best he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Very respectful, listening well. Like sister will spill something and he's like, okay, sis, we got to go get a towel. Here are the towels, like cleaning it up and everything. So much so that he got this like stuffed froggy from daycare. And it's like, you get froggy if you are the best listening kid. You're the most respectful. There's like a lot of things you got to do. It's like a prize. Like not everybody gets it. And so he got Froggy on Friday and he got to keep him all weekend. And so we got to go like to Chuck E. Cheese and take pictures with Froggy at Chuck E. Cheese, all this kind of other stuff. And then he comes home today and he walked through the door and he was just bawling. So I'm thinking he got in trouble on the way home. Mom jumped on him. If dad jumps on him, he just is kind of like, oh, okay, sorry, Dad. If Mom jumps on him, it's like just crushed. And some kid, his best friend, who he calls him, said that he had dumb shoes. He had dumb socks at home. He had dumb pants. He had a dumb shirt.
Dude, where does this kid live? Where does this kid live? I swear to God.
This kid doesn't understand. He's a little bit younger than Roman. And so he doesn't understand like what he's saying, but
He's about to.
Roman knows. So I'm going to take him to school tomorrow and we're going to have a conversation. And because his mom works there. Oh yeah. I'm going to elbow the kid in the forehead without question. We're the same height. It's game over for him. It's game over for him.
Hey, it's fair game. Age doesn't even matter if height's in play.
And so it was just like, it was so gut wrenching, dude.
Yeah.
And so we had to have a conversation of like, dude, like people sometimes just do mean things, right? You may not have done anything to deserve it.
Yeah.
And people just do mean things. So it was such a flip.
How did he take that
from
conversation?
the last week where he was on, cloud nine and he was great and all this kind of stuff. And then he just it really hurt him. He lounged around.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm not prepared to kill a kid, but I mean, I might need to mentally get there.
Jeez.
Dude, it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
We had a worship team event yesterday. Or not really. We just kind of hosted just a game night kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one of the girls, she's a single mom. She has an only child. And my youngest, Levi, who's only 3, he wanted to grab a toy that was his, that was being played with by the older kids. And this other kid is probably like 9.
Uh-oh.
And so Levi, being Levi, the youngest, not that we're like encouraging the baby of the family kind of thing, but he grabbed his toy and took it back. It's his toy. It's kind of the rule that we have in the home. You should share, but at the end of the day, if it's one of your toys from like your birthday, it's your toy. You can offer a trade for that toy, or you can,
that's good.
If you were playing with it, it's your toy at the end of the day. Which you've got to have those ground rules when you have 4 kids. But this only child, yelled, true yell at my youngest.
Jeez.
And did I was playing with it, and I hear it downstairs, and the dad fuse kicks in, and I go upstairs and do the, hey, it's his toy. He can play with it. And it's, well, he wasn't playing with it anymore. Did he bring it into the room and then walk away to get another toy and then come back? Because it was like a G.I. Joe Jeep. So he brought the Jeep in, then went to grab the G.I. Joe and the guns that are associated with it. I understand it as the dad. I've seen this fight before. But this, dude, my son came downstairs. He did the full on, the silent cry. I'm assuming you guys have all seen that, where the mouth is open, but no noise is coming out.
Oh my gosh. Those are terrifying.
And I hate them so very much. But it was in that realm of my child, who shouldn't feel this devastated, is devastated right now. For a solid few hours, was just not inconsolable, but he was just you could tell that it was sitting in the back of his head. He got yelled at for wanting to play with his toy. And
by somebody that he probably doesn't know super well either.
Nope. No, yeah. It hurt me as a dad. I was just oh my gosh, I'm angry at a 9-year-old, angry, almost get out of my house angry.
Yeah.
And I'm dude, I gotta get it under control. And then we had to have a talk I talked to the mom of the kid, and she was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to talk to him. And she did. But it was that devastation on your child's face hurts so much when they can't understand exactly what they did wrong, or that they didn't, because they must have done something wrong in their minds because they got yelled at.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And you're trying to balance that out and be you're good, little buddy. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry this happened to you.
Yeah, I think that's a super good segue into the whole discipline aspect of, the question of, how do you distinguish between teaching, right, your kids certain things, and then like you've got 4, I've got 2, right? Nick, you've got 3. At what point do you say, when does teaching become really like I'm being a little bit too tough? I'm calling too many things out, like letting them kind of live life a little bit. What does that look like in your house? Because I've got I feel like we struggle with that a little bit in my house.
I actually read that question and wrote a note down because I thought about it. It was like the hardest question on that list. And I said, I wrote down, it's really taking a second to balance the severity of the thing to the severity of your reaction.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Because there are things like, if my kid is going to try and run out into the street without looking both ways, that goes up to 11 because I want that to get imprinted.
Yeah.
I want them to know, because that is a true threat to their well-being. But if it's, I'm going to sound like a broken record, if it's they haven't cleaned their room and I've told them for 3 days, it is not worth like truly like you got to, if the only thing they're doing wrong is being kids, like getting distracted, wanting to play with their toys instead of picking them up, my reaction should not be in excess of the crime, quote unquote, committed.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah,
that's a great way to look at it. My dad was military.
Was mine, brother, so I'm pretty sure I know where this is going.
My older brother was military, so my dad lived by rule of 3. Like, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to make you.
Sounds familiar.
I only got to level 3 a couple times. It was I equated it. What did I said this to somebody the other day? Like Jurassic Park when he talks about the raptors testing different parts of the fence. Like that was me. That was me growing up. And so that's been probably, to be fair, that's been like the hardest part for me is like it's my job, and I'm learning how far off I feel like I am from raising a little girl to raising Roman, right? Because I've got a little man, right?
Yep.
And only I am the only person equipped in my house to raise him and teach him manly things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And so one of the things that like I've tried to be pretty even across the board as I think you said it well, as like severity of reaction towards certain things. I did lose it a couple weeks ago, and I could tell that story a little bit later, but I've realized how soft I am with Cora. And me and my wife had a conversation, a little while back of like, hey, there's things that I can never teach Cora ever because I'm not a woman. I don't understand emotionally sometimes how to connect with things. Like I swatted Cora the other day because and I say swat for everybody listening. It was like hitting her with a feather on her diapered butt. Okay. And we'll put CPS phone number in the chat for y'all if y'all want to call. But she thinks it's funny when she has her cup. She's doing really well drinking from a regular cup and not not a sippy cup, but like one with, that's got a lid and a straw type of thing.
Yeah.
But she's like open, regular little cup. And she thinks it's hilarious to take a sip and then spit it out and dump it. And I was like,
that is pretty funny.
Girl, like, I know if Roman did that, I'd be all over him.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that. That's disrespectful. This is how you're going to clean it up. And you're not going to get anything to drink until you realize that we don't do that. Right. Well, Cora did. I let Cora do it 3 times before I got to that point. And I've realized now that she's getting old enough. She's going to be 2 next month. She's getting old enough to understand when she's not supposed to do things. right? Like, because she'll just kind of give you that side eye and do it anyway, you know?
Yeah.
And so I like, I gave her a little swat on the butt, and like she just looked at me with pure devastation and just lost it. Right. Mommy, hold you. Mommy, hold you. And Mel was like, what happened? I said, she's dumped her milk out 3 times. And she goes, you let her get to the 3rd time? Like, you would have done that with Roman. And that's where I was like, oh no, like I'm treating them different, And so that's the hard part for discipline for me.
It's super tough because it's your little girl.
Yeah.
But there's also something to be said for learning what type of discipline each child responds to.
Yeah,
because you can't discipline them all the same. Like, my oldest son is a stern word is enough to set him straight. Like, the tears come in, everything happens. My oldest daughter is a brick wall. She cannot be reached once she's set her mind to something, because she's the swat on the butt to snap her back to reality. My youngest daughter and my youngest son, I mean, they're too young to really know, so they don't really get in trouble. They get like the sit in the corner kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Go stand in the corner, calm down, then we can talk. But that's it.
I think.
Yeah, that's a. Oh, go ahead, Garrett.
I was just gonna
say that's a good perspective, TJ.
No, yeah, I think that's great. I think as someone who doesn't have kids, Kate and I were talking about this when I was telling her a little bit about like what tonight's episode is going to be about. She's like, what do you think? Like, obviously, like we don't have our baby here yet. Like, what is your perspective on it? And I thought, I think, I think it's all about your intentions behind what you're saying or what you're doing. Like, if you have the intention and you're kind of trying to discipline out of anger, and you have that intention of like, I don't know, just I guess it just depends where you're coming from. Like, if you're trying to discipline out of anger or you're trying to discipline out of frustration, then you're probably being too tough on your kid. But if you have that intention of like, hey, we're going to use this as a learning moment. And there's a difference between being angry or frustrated and being stern, like TJ kind of said about that. Like sometimes you just need a stern word. And I think there's a difference between being stern and being, frustrated or being angry. And I think it's about just your intentions behind what you're doing and making sure that you're not acting out of anger or frustration, and you're trying to use every moment that you can as a teachable moment, and not something that you can use as like I'm going to take my frustration out on you because of this.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be well aware too, I think, of like how long it takes you to like process information. I think is something that like you have to really kind of be aware of. Like, for me, I think when I'm angry, the way that I process information is like I have to at least give myself 25 minutes to really fully comprehend like what is going on in this situation, because I'm not seeing it clearly. Like the saying, seeing red, like that's how I am for 25 minutes on any situation that frustrates me. Like I know I just have to give myself a little time to think it through.
Yeah.
And so I guess for me, I've realized a lot, especially getting into like the teenage years with Dominic and Mason, and they're like 12 and 10. So it just seems like the teenage years are coming a lot quicker than they were when we were younger. And so I've come to realize, like I had a situation a couple days ago where initially, like when it was brought to my attention, I was upset about it. I looked at it and I was like, okay, this situation like warrants me to be pissed off. So I got to be pissed off. Well, I took probably like 25 minutes to assess the situation, think about when I was 12 years old, my conversations with my buddies, different things like that, just kind of going through like analyzing the situation. And I realized I was like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Like, I'm just going to let him know. And I remember back to a conversation I had with my dad when I was 12. And I'll I'll spare the details on the podcast, but like I clearly remember the conversation, and I clearly remember the embarrassment that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought to myself, okay, I think that's going to be enough to fix this situation. So, I shared my findings of the situation with one of my sons, and I was like, hey, here's what I came across. Here's what I found. Here's what I think about it. What do you think? And just the pure like terror on his face that I knew about the situation was enough. That was it. That was enough for him to correct his behavior and go, oh my God, I never want to have to look at my dad again that way. And him know that I was talking like this through text message, and it could be something that could suspend me from a Christian school that I go to. So I think it was enough for him to realize, like, holy crap, and so it's that was it. That was the end of the conversation. And I was like thinking, I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like, I want to take his Xbox away. I want to whoop him. I want to like get the belt. Like, I am so mad right now. And I think that was enough to clear it up. In just driving home this morning during our devotions, just like the need for repentance. So kind of following up the discipline with like some sound advice on like, hey buddy, here's what we do moving forward. Like, we don't beat ourselves up. We don't feel guilty. Like, yes, there's punishment. Yes, you're grounded from such and such for this long, but really trying to just give yourself time to assess the situation. Like, one of my biggest advice to any dad that's like me is just give yourself time to process the information, because 99% of the time you're going to be too overwhelmed to process it right then and there. Just go find that quiet spot and think about it for a few minutes and proceed from that point. So that's all I get on that.
It's funny. I saw this ad for this new show on Hulu literally 10 minutes before we started recording, and I was about to just look it up, but I can't remember the name of it. But it's some TV show that they take like these different kind of parenting styles, and they like ask these parents questions about how their kids handle this or how they handle that, and then they'll like show like live footage of like like a natural kind of parent that doesn't want to push too hard on their kids. Like, they'll take them and put them at like a fine dining restaurant, and like their kids are just like kind of throwing fits because they don't have food that they like, and it's just showing like how these parents respond.
That sounds like a horror show.
I'm really interested to watch it now. I think it's going to be super interesting.
I just got anxiety even thinking about it.
But all that to say, the host of the show is like, he says something along the lines of like, at one point is like, my best advice to parents when it comes to discipline is, first put them in a timeout. And I guess this is kind of the younger kids. You can't really put middle schoolers in timeout. I don't know. But like, put them in a timeout, like, first because they need to like have some time to cool off. They need some time to think about what they just did. But second, you need time to think about like what just happened. You need to process what's going on and how you're going to respond. And I think like Gordo even saying that like you have to take some time. Like, I think that's like that's key in like, I think anything with discipline is taking some time to assess, okay, what the heck just happened? What the heck am I going to do? And how do we move forward?
In all of that, listening to it, I was like, sometimes teaching moments for your kids are just as much of a teaching moment for you too.
Oh, without question. Yeah.
Oh, 100%, dude. We are learning how to be dad while they are learning how to do life at the exact same time.
Yeah. Somebody, I can't remember who said it, but somebody was talking about how, I think it was maybe TJ or Nick, but I think it was actually Garrett talking about disciplining out of anger and frustration. And a big thing in which I think we've probably like gone ditch to ditch in this, because growing up, my dad was in Vietnam, severe PTSD. So any talking about emotion was never happened. Like, it was not a thing. And so when I say ditch to ditch, like, I've definitely disciplined out of anger and frustration because typically it's like the 12th time that I've asked you not to do that. So I'm fed up. But something that we do that is very important to us as a family unit is, even if we get to that point, it's even if the discipline has already happened, it's circling back around and making sure that um, that they understand the emotion that was coming out, and helping, like, telling them, like, hey, we're learning the same way that you are. So
Yeah.
Dad was very mad, but I'm not mad at you. I was mad at what was happening. So it's
Mhm.
not you that I'm specifically mad at. I'm just mad at what we call a situation. Trying to explain. You're trying to explain to a 4.5-year-old what a situation is not. You're not going to get anywhere, right?
I
But
thought
it's
isn't he a person? Thus?
yeah. What'd you say?
The situation? Like the
Oh,
person?
God bless. No. Um, but it's like, to me, it's like, I want those words and that type of vocabulary to be said around him. So as he gets older, we can start talking through, like, because he's starting to learn, like, um, just this morning, actually, we didn't have any, we didn't have any donuts for breakfast. Not like we eat donuts for breakfast all the time, but he woke up and said, Dad, I want a donut for breakfast. And I'm like, sorry, bud, we don't have any donuts. I can make you like a egg sandwich, which is like, we just fry an egg, put it on cheese on a piece of bread, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm so mad at you. Like, well,
Yeah.
hey, I appreciate you telling me how you feel, but why? Can you tell me why you're mad? Because you never get me donuts. Dude, shut up. You had donuts Friday morning and Saturday morning. Okay, get out of here. You've had enough for the month. All right.
Sounds like Mason.
Because I give him a donut at like noon and he's up until midnight. So it's just, we got to be. It's not Aspen who can eat
We're not all
1,200
Aspen
pounds of
out here.
nerds and a gallon of Dr. Pepper and fall asleep as that's happening. So, but yeah, I mean, that's definitely super good advice that I want us to start applying, of like, is I always looked at a timeout as like time for them to chill the F out and, like, hey, you're in trouble. So you go sit in timeout. But that's a really good kind of mentality adjustment of like, hey, the timeout is more for me, right? For me to have, 5 or so minutes to process, like, why am I so frustrated at this, or why is this making me feel like
Yeah.
this? So then we can come back, and I always like to get on, like, my knees and just look them in the eye and be like, hey, this is what men do. Men
Yeah.
talk to each other, and we respect each other, and we look each other in the eye when we're having a conversation. No fidgeting, playing with your ear, looking around, dancing. Like, I make him stand. I'm like, you're going to stand like a man, and I'm going to do the same. So we put our arms down to our side, or we do our hands like over this, and you can put your hands on your belly, but you look me in the eye.
Yeah.
And if he looks away, I stop until he looks back, and we'll tell him, like, we're not moving until we talk like men. And so he's kind of getting to the point now to where, like, after he gets out of timeout, he'll come over and stand. He's like, Dad, man to man. So it's kind of like, he's kind of
That's
like,
awesome.
Dad,
I love that so
he's
much.
like, Dad, hurry up. Kind of like, let me just go play. Right. But it's still like, it's imprinting in him, like, hey, this is how you handle things when when you get older and you're a man. You look them in the eye, whether it's easy or whether it's hard, you show respect. And then, the hard part is kind of getting my wife on that same kind of discipline page of like, hey, when you're disciplining him, this is how a man is supposed to be to whoever, right? Like, this is how you show respect. And that's one of the things that frustrates me sometimes, because she doesn't demand that respect from him just yet. And so he kind of like walks all over her sometimes, and that drives me up the wall.
And I think it's hard too, because I think, like you said earlier, there's things that you can't teach Cora because you're a man, and there's also things that she can't teach Roman because she's not a man.
I didn't really get to share a piece, but I feel like I'm kind of the tougher parent out of the two. Not that Ashley doesn't discipline Aspen, but I think I struggle with that sometimes too, is being too tough on her, because I am the most impatient person on the face of the earth. So like one mistake and I'm like, oh my God, why'd you do this? Like I'm just at a 10 automatically, and I have to keep that under control sometimes. But yeah, I think everything that you said was pretty spot on, and things I have to apply to myself. Yeah, it's very difficult for me. I think I'm the disciplinary, where she's more gentle and easy and gives her chances. Yeah. I'm kind of like what TJ said, the 1-2-3 rule, where it's I ask you, tell you, and if it's still not done, then I'm just pissed. Like I've told you 3 times already.
No Dr. Pepper for you.
Do you feel like Pepper. Here's an interesting question with that. I don't know where we're at on time, but do you feel like your wife is that way because you are so, I almost said overbearing, but I don't mean it in like a negative. So that's not the right verbiage, but do you feel like your wife has to be on the other side?
Because she has to balance out you being the disciplinarian.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But do you also, a follow up to that? Sorry. Do you also think that, do you know how she feels about having to be that way because you're this more strict parent? Is he not talking, or is he frozen?
No, dude.
He hasn't blinked. So
you froze. Like you just froze with a smile on your face. And I was like, did we break him?
No, it's bad connection. Can you hear me?
Joker mode.
Yeah, we got you. We got you now.
Okay. So I don't feel like that she has to be that way. I do feel like it does balance. But I don't feel like she has to be that way, because even before we had Aspen, she's like, this is how I want to parent. I want a gentle parent. I want to be very easy about it. And she asked her to do stuff 27 times. And of course, everybody loses their temper. But she'll ask her 100 times to do something, and she still doesn't do it. She's like, if you don't do this, you're getting a timeout. And it's just over and over again. And I'm like, Aspen, stop it. And it's 2 different dynamics. I don't feel like she has to be that way. I just feel like that's the way she chose that she wanted to raise her children before she even gave birth. She wanted to be very gentle going forward. And I agree with that to an extent, but I also agree with kind of the way that I was raised. If I ask you to do something, you need to do it. If I tell you to do something, you need to do it. And on that 3rd time, I'm going to be angry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This could be an episode for another question for another episode. What do you think that's communicating to Aspen?
I was thinking that when he was saying that.
Like,
I think that needs to be needs to be on next episode, because that's a lot to unpack. I have a lot of feelings about that.
Yeah, I just a question.
How Tyler disciplines Aspen. I mean,
do you feel like that's? Do you feel like you guys being on separate pages on that is communicating, like, that it's a confusing communication to her, or do you feel like she understands kind of what's happening?
Yeah, I don't think I don't mean to make it sound like it's like that all the time. Like it's not she's gentle all the time and I'm always yelling. Like that's not the way it is. That's not the way it is. I didn't mean for it to come across that way. But I try the gentle approach first, and if it's not working, then I'm going to get stern. Like I'm not out there just yelling. But yeah, I try the gentle approach first. As far as what it's communicating to her, I try to get the importance across. I know she's only 3, or she's about to be 3. But I'm trying to get the importance across of listening and following direction. When your parents or somebody in charge tells you to do something, you need to do it because we have your best interest in mind. I know that's hard for her to understand at 3 years old. That's also hard for me to understand that she is only 3 years old and she can't fully comprehend everything that's going on at one time. So I think it's a balance between both of us as far as me understanding what she can understand and her understanding what I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's always going to be a biological aspect in that guys are more factual and logic. And it's like, I told you, why didn't you do it? Where a mom is always going to be more nurturing, so to speak, is how I've always looked at it. So my wife is the get to the feelings of, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you listen? I'm like, you didn't listen. Go do it. Listen. And I'm just like, I feel like the balance is important. I think what you guys were getting back to is your kids seeing the disparity in behavior between mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough because I could say, yeah, I could definitely see that if you push it too far out of whack, then they start not knowing how to behave. But they gotta. I think there has to be a certain balance. You can't both freaking come down like a ton of bricks every time, but you also both can't let your kids run over you.
Mm-hmm. I think we do a good job of picking up each other's slack. So like where she gets impatient, I try to be gentle and pick up and be like cool and calm and be that gentle parent. And where I kind of fly off the rails a little bit, she's super gentle and calms it down, and we kind of play off of each other. That we can stay on the same page and adapt to what each other is doing when needed.
Sure.
I've just been observing, honestly, this conversation, and I feel like I literally, it was like 2 seconds ago, and I can't remember which one of you said it, but something about like balancing, like you can't come down at the same time, and I think that's something that just from Marissa and I having the background of being like, middle school, high school sweethearts, whatever, like we know each other well enough, and like we have this weird balance that's almost like natural on like some things she comes down on, some things I come down on, some things she's more great, she gives more grace, and some things I don't. So it's like it's just communicating. Like the two biggest things with Marissa and I are communications and expectations. Like we always communicate, and then we always communicate like our expectations of each other, and so that way there's no surprises, and so yeah, honestly, like I think don't get me wrong, like a lot of our arguments revolve around how we discipline the kids. Like a lot of it is Nick, you're too hard, and a lot of it is Riss, you're way too soft on them. So like that is a lot of our argument. Like we don't argue about other things. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing we argue about. But outside of that, I feel like we have a pretty solid balance. But I would definitely say like most of the time I come down harder on the kids, especially my boys. I mean, I really haven't. Besides Evelyn reaching for like an iPhone cable coming out of a outlet, like I haven't had to discipline her yet. So I don't know how it is to discipline a little girl, but my boy is like, I'm hard on them because it's like exactly like we always talk about. Like you guys are going to be men. Like you're going to learn this now, and you're going to learn this lesson once, and you're going to understand it from this point forward. Like because you have to understand that it's pivotal to being a man. So
yep.
I don't know. I definitely come down hard on them, but I've also taught them a lot of lessons out of just plain out stupid examples that I've set or done, so I guess it's finding a balance and using yourself as an example point and in teaching them out of what you do, but also making lessons out of what they do, to kind of keep them understanding that they're never going to reach perfection, but they can reach a point where, they're being responsible, different things like that. So.
Well, hey, if you have any questions or topics that you want us to talk about, please reach out on Instagram or email. I just want to say a special shout out to Austin for sending in today's question. I feel like it really sparked some really good conversation. And that's what we're here for. We're here for you guys and just to have some good conversation. So I do appreciate whenever anybody reaches out and gives us a topic to tackle. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on, whether that be Spotify or iTunes or Apple Music or Stitcher or Zune or MySpace or whatever you've got going on. Zynga.
Dude, yes.
Pandora, if you, for whatever reason, believe in that.
Hey,
LimeWire, Mixer, whatever you've got. Thank you again so much for listening. It really does mean the world that that you choose to listen to idiots like us just babble on for God knows how long. But yeah, you guys are the best. We love you. Until next time.
I'm Gordo.
I'm Abe.
I'm Tyler.
We're so bad at this part.
I'm TJ.
And I'm Garrett. Remember that being good enough isn't the goal. The goal is progress over perfection. Let's all try to be a little bit better this week than we were last week. You got this. Love you. Bye.
Goatman.
Bye.
Goatman, Goatman.
This man up to something.